by the nature of who we are and some of the things that we do well and how they perform their business, which is really streamlined as well, we can actually take opportunities that exist out there and be able to very quickly bring them to a good conclusion.
Hello and welcome to the Solar Maverick podcast, where solar meets entrepreneurship and experience. I'm your host, Benoy Thanjan, so let's get into it. Welcome to the Solar Maverick podcast. I'm your host, Benoy Thanjan. I'm excited to have our two guests today, Daryl Pilon from Standard Solar and Bob Burwasser from Carlisle Construction Materials. And really, we're going to focus on roof and solar, and that's a huge part of developing solar energy rooftop solar projects in not just the US, but internationally. And I know you guys are doing stuff nationally, but have a focus on the Northeast markets. Daryl is the Director of Business Development for Standard Solar. He focuses on the Northeast markets, but he also has done a lot of stuff in the Midwest as well. And your first opportunity to close, I know, was in California. Mm-hmm. And Bob is the expert in roofing, and both Daryl is, but you've been in roofing for what
28 years.
28 years. So I'm really excited to have the both of them, and really they're going to bring a unique perspective that we really haven't heard and talk about the unique partnership that Standard Solar has with Carlisle Roofing. Can you both talk a little bit about your backgrounds and how you got to where you are and how you guys know each other? Because it's interesting. It's kind of part of the story and how Daryl got into solar, which was with Bob and the connection that you made with Standard Solar there.
Well, I've been doing this, like I said, for 28 years in roofing. I got into it from the commercial real estate end way back when. I met Daryl a few years ago. He was a customer of mine with Capital Coatings and specialized in spray liquid applied roofing and would order materials from me. We went to a show in Teaneck, and exhibited Jersey, yes. exhibited next to the Standard Solar booth. And as neighbors, Daryl got to know the president of Standard Solar, and I think you can join in now and continue the story.
Yeah, it's been a blessing to know Bob Burwasser with Carlisle Roof Foam and Coating. And Bob's right. Yeah, we met a number of years ago, and we met to solve a problem for an egg manufacturing company where they had condensation issues. And that's how I got to know Bob and some of his systems and products. My background is mechanical engineering, and I was chief engineer of a consulting firm for a decade, worked in automation, custom machine design, build for a decade, moved into the building trades and did things with companies like Turner and building interiors, and then it evolved to the building exterior, where I met Bob, where I led the roof restoration division of a company that did customized coatings and specialty products like that. And so we were at an event in New Jersey, and it was kind of an FMA sort of thing, and Bob asked me to help, and I did, and we had a lot of interesting opportunities at that event. There I met with Bob. I met Scott Wyatt, who's the president and CEO of Standard Solar, and we began a dialogue. And that dialogue led to me accepting a position as the Director of Business Development for Standard Solar. Standard Solar is a really vertically integrated company that's a national company, and so it was a perfect fit. My background, and I think the reason we're here today is really to talk about the marriage between roof and solar, and some of the things that we're able to do today that are, I think, critical to the success of a project, to the client, and to be able to bring things all together in one envelope.
Definitely. Oh, sorry, Bob, you were going to say
Well,
something.
if I might add,
Sure.
I was disappointed when Daryl left Capital Coatings and I lost a customer, but I was overjoyed to hear that he was joining the solar industry because I believe in solar, and as a match, I started thinking, this is going to be a great relationship early on, and it has been between the two companies.
Definitely. And for people who don't know, Standard Solar is a national EPC for solar, has been in business since 2004. They also actually invest in projects, not just commercial, industrial, but also utility scale projects. They have low cost of capital, $300 million. It's $500 million now.
We're up to 8.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yes.
And this was due to the acquisition of Energier, which is a multi-billion-dollar energy company based in Montreal, $7 billion in assets company. Standard Solar is a client of Renew Energy, and Daryl and I have recently closed about it's what, 10.6 megawatts
Yes.
a project, 6.5 megawatts in the SMART program, and 4.2 in Rhode Island. They're
That's
actually
right.
two projects. So definitely they also finance utility scale projects. Obviously, if you're interested in financing projects, not just rooftop projects, but utility scale, feel free to reach out to Daryl or I. And definitely this talk is about roof and solar. Can you guys talk about why the roof is so important when you install a solar project, and what are the things that you look at?
Well, basically, we survey and evaluate the current roof's condition. And what we recommend in a lot of cases is a liquid applied restoration, roof restoration system, which in effect becomes a platform for either ballasted or permanently attached solar panels. And we do this in a very economic fashion so that the numbers pencil out and make sense for the owner. And through funding with Standard Solar, it's a tremendous marriage. Daryl, you could probably add more detail to that.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It is a good marriage. We were invited to be a part of Carlisle's booth at SPI in Anaheim, California this year. It was great attendance and a significant amount of activity in the booth. And what we were focused on there at SPI was helping to communicate to folks that we really do have an integrated system. As Bob pointed out, it's a silicon-based system. Silicone is inorganic, so it's not affected by the sun. So it stays pliable, it stays the same thickness, it performs extremely well. And as Bob pointed out, being liquid applied, it is applied to what's currently there, so you really do add to the thickness of the roof.
Sure.
And it becomes fully adhered, seamless, like a pool liner would be. And you're taking care of the problems of the roof where most of the problems reside, seams and penetrations and things like that. And it works on many different roof substrates like EPDM, TPO, PVC, mod bit, all those things. And when that isn't enough, we also use spray polyurethane foam. And we use that to solve a plethora of problems, whether it's condensation or strength or it's a difficult surface to actually liquid apply. Then the spray polyurethane foam fills a beautiful void. So now that we have this system that's been around for quite some time, actually, not only does GE but Carlisle have liquid applied silicone, it's been in existence, well, for GE since the 60s and has been really tried and proven. So being able to use a system that has that type of performance under an asset that should last 40, 50 years, we now are starting to bring these into focus, these two elements, solar and roof. And as we joked around, for the first time since man has walked upright, we now have a roofing membrane that can parallel the longevity of solar. So it is one of the last roofs you'll ever have to buy. I hate to say the last roof you'll ever have to buy, but it is certainly will outperform conventional membranes. And that's a very important thing when we're trying to take care of our clients and avoid future removal, which is catastrophic in my opinion. So I do think we have a great solution. I appreciate you asking about that.
Yep, definitely.
Going back, there have been two items that have affected solar installation, rooftop installations. One is that to replace the roof was too expensive, and a lot of solar projects were put on hold indefinitely. Number two, what's even worse is people weren't concerned with the condition of the roof, and they put panels on those substandard roofs, and now 4 or 5 years later are feeling the pain of failing roof systems with hundreds of panels on the roof. So these are two issues we tackle, and like I said, at a very economical cost to make these projects work so that a lot of EPCs and owners that were interested in solar and just because of the roof cost couldn't pursue it, we're going back to now, and it's becoming a very viable opportunity for building owners.
Definitely. So I think the easy way to kind of summarize it is obviously with new roofs, you could, in a normal situation, put solar on it. But it's when there's a certain amount of years, usually 8, 10 to more years, basically you're suggesting doing a roof restoration solution because it equals the useful life of a solar asset, which is around 20 to 30 years. And it's a lot cheaper than a roof replacement because you actually have to tear down and then
Dispose of.
redispose, then putting, as you said, the roof restoration solution. And sorry to go back, but Bob Burwasser is the Northeast Regional Manager for Carlisle Construction Materials, which is a diversified manufacturer and supplier of premium building products and related technologies for the commercial and residential construction markets. I should have said that in the beginning.
Just commercial.
Just commercial, so you
Yes.
don't do residential.
No.
And basically you have a national sort of scale. And can you talk about the whole process that goes? And I know the three of us have spent a lot of time looking at roofs and solar, how that process works. Because usually the first part of the process obviously is the origination of the opportunity from whatever channel it is. But then usually Bob will have someone from Carlisle or a partner, a roofing company. Can you talk about like that whole process of how then that translates basically to the cost related to the solar piece of it?
Yes. Everything starts with a physical evaluation of the roof, which may be a combination of procedures. One is we'd always like to core the roof to see what's there, to see the composition of what's there, whether it's one roof, two roofs, the insulation type, down to the deck. And of course, we repair it and everything's fine. That's one thing that we really do as a must. What's more optional but encouraged is an infrared moisture survey, which does show the hot spots of where moisture is in the current roof. If some of the roof needs to be replaced, that will point us in the right direction. Other than that, we look at whether it's just an overall good application for either polyurethane foam spray applied with the silicone coating on top or just the high solid silicone restoration system. The polyurethane foam adds a tremendous insulating material to the roof as well as thick waterproofing membrane. Again, monolithic self-flashing system. What's more favorable economically, of course, is the high solids restoration silicone without the foam. And most of the situations, membranes, standing seam, corrugated metal are ideal opportunities for the silicone. So once we get an evaluation and decide how we're going to utilize the scope of work, we will put a scope of work together with an estimate, and we would give that to Daryl at Standard Solar to plug into his PPA programs or whatever funding that project is going to get. That's basically it from start to finish with us until we start restoring the roof.
And it's great working with Carlisle. I must truly admit, they're a very professional, very competent, capable organization. And that's important that there's integrity there on the roofing side. So we know that the foundation on which we're about to place our panels and equipment on is a good foundation. So what we do is we take the information that Carlisle provides through perhaps some of their certified contractors. They come up with a price, and that price goes into our model. And so we may not have stated it, but our primary focus at Standard Solar is to be able to fund projects to own and operate. It's our full intention to take this $800 million fund that we have annually and invest that into the solar marketplace to be able to drive this industry forward. We're paying close attention to the roof while we're doing that because it is a very important piece of the equation. And our focus is naturally the client. I hope everybody out there that's listening is the client. And to be right by the client, to provide a 25-year labor material leak-free guarantee on the roof side, that even beyond that, because of the nature of the material being inorganic, it's not going to change in flexibility or thickness or whatever. You have a much greater longevity in a roof system like that than you do in conventional roofing systems.
Sure.
So a greater longevity at less cost, single monolithic surface, it's a really great thing. So we take that cost, we put it into our model, and we will incorporate the roof restoration into the project. We can even incorporate other things on occasion. We get requests for strange things like, hey, how about the optimizers for the HVAC? Sure, we do that as well. So we're pretty flexible on that regard, but we take the cost of the roof, we integrate that into the cost of the solar array, and we allow solar to pay for the roof restoration. And we integrate it into one integrated, contiguous sort of project. So it's sort of sole source responsibility. When we do pay for the roof as a part of the project, it's owned by the building owner. So the building owner gets, a free roof, if you will, or at least very much a roof that's paid for. and that roof is paid for by us, but it's on their building and they own that asset. So when we're done, their building has increased in value. Then we come along and we install the solar. But I do want to point too that we can restore the roof as a part of the solar project and still put the solar on the ground. It doesn't mean that the solar has to be over the restored roof. It's just that we're using the solar asset to pay for that roof restoration. And as a result, many, many companies that are out there that have stalled projects on the roofing side can free those up. And the deferred maintenance in schools and universities and municipalities and so on can now take advantage of a power purchase agreement to be able to get things done a different way. And I think that's what makes us very unique as a company.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's big. I mean, a lot of people, basically a power purchase agreement is Standard Solar as the investors owning the solar system and providing discounted electricity to their customers with including a roof as part of it. So the customer doesn't really have to actually make the capital expenditure. They're paying for it through discounted electricity. There's a lot of different incentives, the investment tax credit, accelerated depreciation for solar, and state level incentives, which makes it, a great opportunity for building owners, especially a roof restoration is a huge capital cost to the business. And usually business owners want to focus on their actual business and deploy that capital somewhere else. Can you talk about, I know you guys had a meeting in Standard Solar's office last week, further discussing the partnership between Standard Solar and Carlisle in your beautiful offices in Maryland, and I guess the launch, as Daryl has on the title. How did that go? Because I know Daryl obviously has a roofing background, which I think is huge because I've been with building owners and it really helps where most people in business development don't. Can you talk about how that meeting went as far as like training the other salespeople who don't? And I've learned to appreciate the complexities of the roof by spending a lot of time with Daryl and Bob, and I still have a lot to learn about it.
I will say and thank Daryl for setting up that meeting. He solely put the agenda together, and it was an excellent meeting where Carlisle brought our regional managers in from across the country, and all of the regional business development people from Standard were together for the first time and got to hear what we do, what Standard does, and how the two are so synergistic together. And everyone came away with a very positive, encouraged outlook, because basically what we do, I see us as enablers by putting the roof platform together to contribute more clean energy and more solar. And if we can enable more panels, that's what it's all about. But I think Daryl, putting this together, can go into a little more detail on what that day's event was like.
Sure. Thank you, Bob. Yeah, it was awesome. Bringing two great companies, two national firms together that have tremendous integrity in the ranks, I think is really beautiful. There are a number of regional managers that Carlisle has across the United States, and it's very interesting to see that we have very similar people in very similar territories. So there's a great match of people, and there's a great match of capability and competency. I think listening to Carlisle, if you don't mind me sharing it, it is a big priority for them to focus with Standard Solar on this industry. And I think by the nature of who we are and some of the things that we do well and how they perform their business, which is really streamlined as well, we can actually take opportunities that exist out there and be able to very quickly bring them to a good conclusion. We are national, they are national. We are vertically integrated as a company, so we can develop or work with developers. We can EPC or work with an EPC. But all through that process, all the way to the very end where we actually do the O&M but work with local partners on the actual boots on the ground O&M piece, there's not anything that we can't provide in that whole chain of events, including and most importantly the money. And so by providing the power purchase agreement and integrating these things together, we have two great companies that are like-minded, that have very similar goals and are very customer-focused. And I think with those elements, success is just around the corner. We have already had success in a lot of the projects that we've looked at. And the bottom line is when someone has a roof, it's leaking, we can solve that problem. At the same time, we can solve their energy problem. There are some states that are more friendly than others with solar, and obviously they pencil a little better. But even in states that are just terrible, we can still provide a restored roof should outperform a conventional roof. And on top of that, take that cost of roofing and integrate it into the PPA. Now, in that state, perhaps it's a little higher than they're paying, but is 2 or 3 cents a kilowatt hour easier to pay as an expense than shelling out $2 million or $1 million in roofing. So I think it's viable everywhere. I really do believe that. And I'm passionate about doing the right thing for the client. I think Standard Solar, and I've stated this already, but I'll say it again, I think we're a great company of integrity, and part of that integrity is doing the right thing all the time. So when you're focused on the client, you're focused on doing the right thing for them, not only on the roof, but on the solar side, and solving problems. And I think, again, if anybody out there that's listening, if you've got condensation problems in your building, I've got to say, Carlisle has some great solutions, not only on the roof, but walls, interior walls, and so on. That's how I met Bob. We worked with a manufacturing facility, and they had condensation problems like crazy. So we solved exterior condensation problems where we applied to the exterior, and then also in their refrigeration area, we solved internal with interior foam. So there's a lot of ways to solve problems. I think I would look at Carlisle as a problem solver and being able to bring the right solution to the table all the time. And I think same thing with Standard Solar. There's a lot of options when it comes to solar, and to be able to bring the right strategy to the table and marry it to the right strategy with the roof and have it all come in pencil is awesome.
Definitely. You know, it's interesting to me because if you think about it, solar's really been around 8 to 10 years as far as a lot of rooftops, specifically California, New Jersey, Arizona, Massachusetts. This is the first time I've actually heard of a partnership between a solar investor, EPC, and basically a roofing materials company. Why do you think it's taken so long if, obviously the roof is a very important aspect of it? Do you guys have any opinions on that? Or
Yeah, I could speak into that perhaps. I think first on site wants to win. and perhaps if the roofer's the first on site, they say, okay, these solar guys are going to mess me up. If they do their thing, I don't get to do my thing. And the solar guys perhaps thought the same thing in reverse. Like if they spend all their money on roofing, then there's nothing left on the solar side. I think what we're all about, and we say this often, we're all about mutually beneficial relationships, right? We've got to both mutually benefit. And when we team up, we can do so much more together, right?
Yes.
It is about being like-minded. And that was one of the beautiful things that came out of our launch last week is the like-mindedness of our two companies from the very highest level down. And so being like-minded, being synchronized, having common goals, being customer focused, all these things, they don't come easily to companies and to people, and it takes trust, and it takes confidence, it takes those things. But we have that. Carlisle is the number one single-ply manufacturer of roofing in the United States of America, and they're a good company, been around a long time, and they're in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, called Carlisle. Beautiful plant. Anybody out there needs to see a beautiful plant, you got to go to Carlisle and see it. They've got an awesome training center, and they do wonderful with their integrators, with what you guys call your applicators when it comes to liquid, and certified roofers the other. And there's a good network out there, and we're working with that. So as a company, we have the funding capability to do these projects. We have the kind of vertically integrated engineering from engineering all the way through. We work with Carlisle, and they also have an interesting network of certified contractors. So you kind of have a complete ensemble from Standard Solar through Carlisle, who manufactures, through their integrated installers, and it's full circle. And again, it's beautiful to work with companies that have that capability. It isn't sort of a one-off where you have Joe's Roofing over here and that's all you got. They have truly a national base. So if there's a project in Kansas, hey, Bob, I give Bob a call. And he's like, yeah, I know the right people to send there. So it's efficient. And I have confidence in it. I really do, because I've seen them in action. They always select the very best contractor to provide the very best solution at the very best cost, and that's a wonderful thing for everybody. And then we take that and we integrate it into the project, and we have a lot of activity as a result of it. SPI we were swarmed, and it was a beautiful thing. And I think it's nice that now we can lead the way. We can spearhead this thing. Obviously, we're sharing it with the world, so we hope the world can be a part of it. But we're going to lead the parade, and I think it's going to be a great existence. Two great companies teaming together. And so we're very much looking forward to the future.
Definitely. I think I'm really excited about it. I know we could go into a lot of detail about solar and roofs, but is there anything that we haven't spoken about when it comes to roofing and solar that I feel like we've covered pretty much all the major topics? Is there anything else that we're
I think we've covered just about everything
Yeah.
in general terms. Of course, there's a lot more detail that people can dive into through Standard Solar's website and our website, but we've covered a lot of the good benefits that we share together.
Sure.
The one thing I would share would be, I think it's relatively easy and to help the public, if you do have a project and you're thinking, oh, it's a metal building, it's a, whatever. I think that there's very few times that things don't work out on a mathematical level. Okay, so that every building has a certain capability to hold snow and ancillary loads like solar. And as we work with independent third-party engineers, structural engineers, to confirm these things, it's typical for us to do that, and everybody else is probably doing as well. But you'll find that 99% of the projects are doable. And it's just a matter of picking the right restoration system and marrying that in, and the right solar. And there's times where we can now, because we do have the ability to use spray polyurethane foam, we could actually mount to the deck, use spray polyurethane foam, which is a plural component element. It's a true R value, and the adhesion is out of the world. Okay, so you get the spray polyurethane foam that is self-flashing to everything it touches, and it adds strength and other things. And then on top of that, we add our high solid silicone coating,
Sure.
sometimes granules depending for anti-slip.
Definitely.
And you end up with a second self-flashing element, and you can reduce the weight of the solar by physically mounting through stanchions to the deck versus ballasting it on top of the deck. So there's even strategies that can be employed to be able to kind of do roofs that wouldn't otherwise be able to be done. And we have a lot of interest from companies that have ballasted roofs. They're in the 20-year now range, 20 to 30. And so to come along and remove the river rock ballast, which could weigh hundreds of thousands of pounds, like lighten up on the building, and to come back and restore that roof or replace that roof even, and then integrate that into the solar, I think it's into the solar PPA.
Sure.
And it's a really popular thing to do.
Definitely. This has been a great interview. I appreciate your time. What's the best way, we call the people who listen to our podcast Mavericks, what's the best way that they could reach out to you both?
Probably email is the best. I'm at Burwasser, BURWASSER, at Carlisle, CARLISLE.RFC.com.
And the best way to reach me would also be by email as well, and it's my name at standardsolar.com. So that is Daryl.Pilon at standardsolar.com. So DARYL dot P as in Paul, ILON at standard, STANDARDSOLAR.com. And I look forward to hearing from you folks and answering any questions you may have in terms of integrated solar with roof.
Definitely. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it and look forward to further interviews. I think this is really helpful for our audience. And thank you again. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Benoy,
Thanks.
for all you're doing, Mr. Maverick.
Solar Maverick, but that's okay.
Staying corrected.
And you can meet us at Tapas at any time.
Yes.
Our favorite place that Bob takes us
Wednesday at 5:30.
Wednesday at 5:30, you get
There
a
it
free
is.
pitcher of beer
There it is.
with pizza. So,
Oh, the best.
thank you. Thank you so much for listening. If this content is delivering value to you, please go to iTunes and Stitcher Radio and leave us a 5-star review. That helps us build this community, and that's what we're all about right now. Building this community as big as we can to deliver as much value as we can.